Steelers making moves, multiple Steelers updates. My name is Peyton Kleppy, and on today's episode of Steelers Digest, we'll be breaking down the latest Steelers news regarding some offensive weapons that they have decided to move on from, as well as some offensive playmakers who are stepping up in a big offensive role. Before we get into the latest reports, if you guys are not already currently subscribed to the channel, just click that subscribe button down below. We are trying to get to 3,000 subscribers. But like I said, the Pittsburgh Steelers have made some roster moves. Unfortunately, have moved on from some veterans. The guy that I am talking about is Cordell Patterson. Cordell Patterson is a guy that the Pittsburgh Steelers did sign, I believe, last year, for that new kickoff return rule. We did expect him to have a big year, but unfortunately, he really didn't. He really did not see the field much. He did have a few drives here and there where he did step in for Najee Harris, but it seemed like once he did pick up some momentum, he unfortunately did get hurt. He did go down with a concussion. I can't remember the exact game. Maybe it was the Chargers game or the Ravens game, but unfortunately this guy did suffer a concussion and did kind of get phased out of the lineup, even the kick return role. I do believe the Pittsburgh Steelers will be rolling with Kenneth Gainwell and Caleb Johnson as their primary two kick returners going into next year. We could also see a guy like Jaylen Warren back there. He has returned kicks in the past, but obviously Cordell Patterson will be no longer a Pittsburgh Steeler. Like I said, we did sign him to a 2-year deal last year for that new kickoff rule, but he did not really produce at all at that kickoff returner position, and he did break the news today himself on Twitter. He did post breaking news: Pittsburgh Steelers release old washed up Cordell Patterson on his day off. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers did have today off after having a long stretch at training camp, and they did release Cordell Patterson. This does free up some cap space for the Pittsburgh Steelers to maybe make some other moves on the roster. I believe it does free up around $2.9 million. So this is a pretty good roster move for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Unfortunately, Cordell Patterson really wasn't even going to see the field at all next year. We did add a lot of talent in that running back room. We drafted Caleb Johnson. We have Jaylen Warren, who's probably going to be our day one starter. And we did also sign Kenneth Gainwell, former Super Bowl champion from the Philadelphia Eagles, a guy that will pretty much take over Cordell Patterson's role. I believe he's more of a, catch out of the backfield guy, change of pace running back. So, we do have some stuff to look forward to in the future in our young guys, but unfortunately, Cordell Patterson, I do wish you the best. I do think another team will pick him up. Some teams that have been rumored to maybe be interested in this guy are teams like the Tennessee Titans, who really don't really have, too much talent at that running back position, or maybe even the Dallas Cowboys, a team that's really still trying to find their number one RB and could look to bring in Cordell Patterson as a guy that could rotate in that backfield because, a few years ago, this guy was a pretty productive player. The Atlanta Falcons did move him to that running back position, and he did have one of his best years at age, I believe, 31 or 32. He rushed for over 500, 600 yards and did have some pretty good kick returns. So, this guy is old. He's 34, but, that doesn't make him less of a football player. He still can be productive when put around, the right pieces. And I do think another team may take a chance on him. It really just depends on what team that is and when that will be. Could be during training camp, could be during the season. If somebody gets hurt, this guy could step in and still be productive for another team. Some bright spots to look for on the roster as we do move forward into training camp, as we do look to put on pads next week, and as we do look to head into the regular season. Third-round rookie Caleb Johnson's been really showing up on the field at training camp. There's been a ton of reports that this guy's been going off. He's been playing really well. Coach Tomlin's really been putting in him more, giving him a larger role on the offense, as well as Jaylen Warren. We haven't really heard too much from him during training camp, but there's been a lot of flashes around Caleb Johnson. This is a guy coming out of Iowa last year. I do believe he did have the Triple Crown in Iowa. Correct me if I'm wrong. He did have, led the team in rushing, led the team in touchdowns, and, led the team in touches as well. So Caleb Johnson is a guy that I'm very excited for. I'm very excited to see how he does in his rookie season in the black and gold. coming out of Iowa, he knows what it's like to play in the black and gold. It's really nothing new to him. And, I am really excited. We do have another fresh set of legs for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Unfortunately, Najee Harris, we let him go. Had some firework incidents this offseason. So we will look to see how that position does play out for him in LA with the Chargers. Unfortunately, he's still on the injured list, and Omar and Hampton's really taken that number one running back role from him. But Caleb Johnson, I'm very excited for him. I'm very excited to see how the Pittsburgh Steelers use him, whether they will run him into the ground like they did Najee Harris his rookie year, or how they did Le'Veon Bell back in the day, Willie Parker, just to name a few other guys. But this guy's a physical back. He runs very similar to Le'Veon Bell, who, he has said that he will be training with this offseason. He's really trying to work on his pass protection with Le'Veon Bell, but it's good to see that former Steelers are embracing this guy with open arms, willing to help him out, willing to give him some tips, and, get him ready for the season as it does start. But, with the corresponding move of releasing Cordell Patterson, the Pittsburgh Steelers could look to make a move at that wide receiver position. Although we did bring in Robert Woods, a veteran wide receiver, earlier on this offseason, we could look to add another wide receiver in Keenan Allen. This guy is still a free agent, still a very productive player. With rookie Caleb Williams last year, he did have, I believe, over 700 yards, had a handful of touchdowns. So, he's not fallen off at all in his 30s. He's still very productive, and I do think adding him to our Pittsburgh Steelers team could only really help us out. Even if he doesn't make it past training camp, he does add a lot of knowledge, a lot of competitive edge to that wide receiver room. He could teach DK Metcalf about running routes. This guy is an insane route runner. If you go back and look at his highlights, he used to be one of the best route runners in the league with the Chargers. And, he really didn't have too much of a dip last season as that number 3 wide receiver in Chicago. So the Steelers could look to sign him. With that new cap space, they did free up, or they could look to, go in another direction, sign a guy like Gabe Davis, who they have worked out earlier on this offseason. But we'll have to wait and see. I do remember earlier on this offseason, Keenan Allen did say he doesn't really want to play for the Steelers. I don't know why. I mean, the Steelers are a great team. We got a great Hall of Fame quarterback, Hall of Fame head coach, a lot of young running backs, probably the best defense in the league on paper at the moment. And, I think this guy definitely could change his mind if the Pittsburgh Steelers do offer him a nice blank check, offer him a little bit of money, and, have him come into Pittsburgh, add some competitive edge to that wide receiver locker room, and, help us get that 7th Lombardi trophy. But unfortunately, that is all I have for you guys tonight on Steelers Digest. If you guys not already currently subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button down below. Thank you so much. Here we go, Steelers.